Howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of Groovy Geeky. And my god, it's been some time, hasn't it? But, you know, I'm back with this one, and hopefully more. And today we're going to be talking about something I really enjoy. In fact, I enjoy it so much that I have the DVD, and I have the kick-ass soundtrack. That's right, we're going to be talking about heavy metal. Rock on! Was it?
Heavy metal. A trip beyond the future to a universe you've never seen before. A universe of mystery. A universe of passionate fantasies. A universe of terrifying evil. A universe of magic. Heavy metal.
Heavy Metal is a 1981 animated movie directed by Gerald Potterton, based on the iconic comic series of the same name. Instead of following a traditional movie structure, Heavy Metal is instead an anthology film consisting of several animated shorts telling of stories of various encounters with the Loch Ness, a mysterious glowing orb that is the sum of all evil in the universe, which loosely ties the stories together, the majority of which being adaptations of stories featured in the pages of Heavy Metal. But anyways, before we go into any depth of the film, we must first take a short trip to France. In 1974, a French science fiction and fantasy magazine was launched, known as Metal Hurlant. This magazine would be like a modern underground version of the classic pulp magazines of the early 20th century, featuring an anthology format of different comic strips of an adult nature mixed with articles of science, fantasy and more. Metal Hurlant was kind of revolutionary, providing an output for creators such as Moebius, Manara, Richard Corbin, Philippe Droulet, and more. A few years later, National Lampoon's Leonard Mogul came across Metal Hurlant and knew that this cult magazine needed to be released to a wider audience, and thus, in 1977, Heavy Metal magazine was released. Initially starting as translations of Metal Hurlant, Heavy Metal would quickly start to publish its own stories, as well as an excellent adaptation of the horror classic Alien, whose scriptwriter, Dan O'Bannon, would himself contribute to Heavy Metal. With a unique visual style, Heavy Metal seemed destined to at some stage hit the big screen, and in 1981 it would achieve this with the highly influential animated film of the same name. Heavy Metal is a traditionally animated movie, with each story having a different style of animation to reflect the fact that each strip in the magazine was created by different artists. To achieve this, over 1,000 animators from 17 studios were used, all of which was supervised by Gerald Potterton. The stories featured frequent amounts of violence and nudity, as well as exaggeratedly cool psychedelic visuals which jump out and stick in your memory. With these visuals, the studios would sometimes have to create innovative ways to display what was required on screen, most notably the scene of Tana flying across the landscape. Such a fluid animation would have been nigh impossible to achieve traditionally, and so was achieved by creating a vast 3D set with the edges and details highlighted with black lines, and then filmed in black and white, with each frame then coloured in like a traditional animation cell. Likewise, when Tana flies through a valley of pipes and tubes, to create a sense of depth, the animators created a rigging multiple feet high with details on different layers, so that when shot down the middle with a camera, they could focus in on the different levels. However, this ambitious approach to animation would result in some scenes not being made, with even the ending of the film missing out on being properly animated, instead just filmed in miniature, even though it was intended to have rotoscoped animation over the top of it, but for time and budget reasons, this was not achieved. As well as its combination of animation styles, heavy metal is also widely praised for its soundtrack, featuring a wide selection of rock icons such as Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, Stevie Nicks, Devo, Don Felder, and more. This can make the movie feel at times like an over-the-top selection of far-out music videos, MTV on steroids, with the songs expertly chosen to reflect the bizarre or extreme visuals on screen. But the soundtrack isn't just banging heavy rock, as celebrated film composer Elmer Bernstein created an excellently fitting score, at times haunting, other times classically heroic, but always in tune with the cheap thrills nature of the movie. And now it's perhaps time to address the elephant in the room. The misogyny. Yes, heavy metal's portrayal of women is perhaps more well known than the film itself, due to being referenced on countless media and shows such as South Park. But the thing is, while filled with boobs and blood aplenty, heavy metal never feels cynical or exploitative. It's like a direct look into the fantasies of a heterosexual teenage boy, and there is something innocent and wholesome about how simplistic and pure it is. Like, the boys just want to save the day and be surrounded by breasts, whilst headbanging all the way. Its over-the-top presentation denies you the chance to take it seriously, and despite a few clever asides, making sure that you only judge this film on a purely superficial level, because there is basically nothing below the surface. It is trash cinema at its purest form. It is fun and chaotic without a care in the world, and I absolutely love it. The stories themselves feature a loose narrative, as the Loch Na, a glowing stone containing the sum of all the universe's evil, tells stories to a scared young girl about what happens to those who encounter it. These stories include Harry Canyon, a taxi driver in future New York who gets mixed up in a heist story when he picks up a passenger running from the mob. Den, which is about a nerd who gets transported to another planet and suddenly becomes a hunky Conan-like hero. So Beautiful and So Dangerous features some aliens abducting an Earth woman and snorting drugs. There are also several smaller sections such as Captain Stern and B-17. And of course, how can you forget the film's iconic opening scene, Soft Landing, which features an astronaut flying through space in a Corvette. Obviously, Elon Musk is also a fan of heavy metal. The final chapter of the story is perhaps the most well known, focusing in on Tana, a scantily clad warrior who seeks vengeance on an army of mutants who destroyed a civilization she had sworn to protect. Tana became the poster girl for the movie. Her striking white hair and cool stare, as well as other obvious assets, have made her a cheesecake icon, recognised even by people who haven't seen the film. Tana's success has led her to receiving action figures, a Sideshow Collectibles premium format figure, her own offshoot comic, as well as countless posters and statues. Tana herself, despite her utter lack of characterization, has become the quintessential warrior badass woman, and part of the reason why this male fantasy-driven film has gathered such a large female following, with cosplayers and fan artists eager to represent her. Heavy Metal received a mixed critical reception, but took in over double its $9 million budget, and would go on to become a cult classic amongst stoners and freaks everywhere. Eventually, a sequel would be released in 2000, appropriately titled Heavy Metal 2000, but that film felt more like an adult-focused Saturday morning action cartoon. As would the next heavy metal film, War of the Worlds Goliath, though that one is half decent. 2012 saw the release of the Metal Hurlant Chronicles, an anthology TV miniseries in the same vein as the heavy metal movie, and well worth a watch if you enjoy this film. Back in 2015 there was talk of Doctor Who's John Barrowman working on a heavy metal adaptation, but that has gone silent. Director David Fincher would helm one last attempt to recapture the charm of the classic heavy metal movie in a long gestated project that would eventually find its home on Netflix under the title Love, Death and Robots, which has been fairly well received. So it's clear that themes, ideas and desires that heavy metal presented still live on as the film continues to remain much loved in the eyes of many, and not just in the black painted bedrooms of its stoner audience, but also in those in the film and television industry who are clearly inspired by its excited notion of animated boobs and blood. And so, thank you for watching this episode. I really do hope that there are more heavy metal movies and TV series and stuff in the future, because it has almost endless potential. And talking about potential, yes, I do intend to make more Groovy Geeky episodes. Let's consider this the start of a second season, maybe, perhaps? Who knows? Well, I guess I'm supposed to know what I never know what I'm doing. So I must apologise for the lack of episodes the past half a year anyway, because I've been working on other projects and been going through some stuff, so I haven't really had the time to work on videos. But hopefully I'm back now. So I guess, until next time, remember to do that whole like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. You know, it makes me smile, and that is kind of important to me, I think. Well, that's getting really cheesy, so before I get drowned by a tsunami of cheese, I don't like cheese, so that would be horrible. Before I get drowned by cheese, let's keep it real, folks. Bye!